This fig tree is very disappointing. It has produced 0 figs. And so, cut it down, get rid of it. Why should it exhaust the soil? But the gardener wants to keep it. The gardener sees some promise in this tree. I'll work with it. I'll fertilize it. Is there any guarantee that that extra care is going to work? No. Will there be automatic fig production next year? No. But there is always room for hope, always room for growth and potential. And the story does not say next year there were 1,000 figs. It doesn't say that. But with God's help, who knows what kind of miracles this tree could come up with. Because those second chances in life are extremely important to us, because God is always merciful and is always ready to give us a second chance. I read an article a few weeks ago about an organization in Baltimore, Maryland called Second Chance. And what they do is they go into rundown houses and they remove all the material that they can salvage from that house, and they recycle it and then they sell it. And so they're giving materials a second chance. At the same time, the vast majority of the people who work for Second Chance are ex-convicts. And so they are receiving also a second chance at life. Sometimes it's so difficult for an ex-convict to receive a job. And so this place exists to give them purpose, to give them a job and a direction for their life. Our society might say to them, ex-inmates, they are trees that will bear no fruit. Get rid of them. But this organization, Second Chances, says that they can get a second chance at life. And once again, second chances are important to us in our faith. I have a friend that I've known for a long time, went to grammar school with her, and she was telling me about her daughter. Her daughter, a wonderful girl, and then at the age of 19, she started dating a boyfriend who was not so good for her. And she got hooked on heroin, and then she did 9 months in jail. And this was just over the span of 1 year. It was incredible. And so my friend would call me up late at night to talk because she seemingly could not do anything to help her daughter out. And then, to add insult to injury, her daughter became pregnant. So, oh my God, it seems like there's so much stuff going on with her. But in it all, her mother stood by her. And now, even after time in jail, she is doing very well. She is employed and is basically over her heroin habit. And so some in our society might say, she doesn't deserve a second chance. A heroin addict is a tree that is not bearing fruit. Cut it down. Well, mercy, love, and cultivation moved her forward in her life, and also moves us forward in our lives as well. And so I think this particular reading is asking us, what do we do with the second chances in our lives? And we all have received second chances. I'm sure any of us can say that there have been times in our lives when we have messed up, and then a second chance is given to us. So I think there are some themes for this particular reading. What are we doing with God's gifts to us? Something, I hope. We are planted in God's garden, and this reading clearly tells us that something is expected of us. We don't just grow there, but we're supposed to thrive there. Sort of like the gospel story about the landowner who gives his servants talents or money that they are supposed to cultivate while he is gone. We are called to do the very same thing. In school, I would imagine, teachers every single day lament about kids who are not reaching their potential. And we are called to be busy about using God's grace in our lives and to put that grace to work. And so for younger people who are here, get involved in your school and in your community. Do something with the gift that you have been given. You don't want to be one of these barren fig trees. God has given you a great many gifts and talents. Use those well. Don't stay on the couch all day playing video games or online or texting on the phone. But in real life, give your lives in service to the people around you. Help, serve, ask, what can I do to use well the gifts that God has given to us? Older folks, you are not exempt from this. In the Bible, older folks did some of their best work when they were older people. Think of, there's Moses and Methuselah. Methuselah lives to be 900. So those of you who are 80, no excuse. Methuselah was just thinking about good stuff to do at the age of 80. It's amazing. So the thing is, no matter what age we happen to be, we are called to use well the talents and the skills that God has given to us. The same challenge that is for young people is also for us as well. Anna, according to the gospel story, was 84 years old, and she came to the temple. See, 80 years old, you can still do stuff. It's all right. So what are we doing with God's gift? That is a question that we can ask to ourselves. And one thing I wondered was, okay, 3 years this fig tree has not given any figs. Cut it down. And the gardener says, well, tell you what, I'll work with it, and then we'll see what happens. I'm wondering if that cutting down ever happens. Will the Father continue to see that fig tree giving no figs and continue to say, get rid of it? And the gardener comes back and says, it has potential. It's one of your great creations. I'm rather confident that that cutting down never actually happens because God is merciful with us and cares for us. And so maybe that cutting down never comes at all because of God's mercy. But then we can say, well, then, if nothing's going to happen, why do I need to change my life? Well, we have received so many great gifts from our God. We are supposed to follow the path that God has prepared for us. And so we pray that we can bear fruit in this life, to be people who realize that certainly God is merciful and we receive a second and a third and a fourth and a 50th chance. But to live life without bearing fruit is not really living at all. And so also too, we are called each and every day to bear fruit in our lives. And that brings me to my third one. The Pope and Donald Trump were involved in an argument this past week. You know, they had to just put on the gloves. That would be cool. They were involved in an argument, and they were saying, you can't judge faith. Well, you know what? You can. You can judge a person's faith. And Jesus says it often. You judge a person's faith by the fruit that they bear. A good tree bears good fruit. A bad tree bears bad fruit. And so we are judged by the fruit that we produce. And so if we, like the fig tree, are not producing anything at all, we are going to be judged by that. And so if we say to ourselves, I'm really, really a faithful person, but I hate or push aside my brother or sister. I love Jesus, but have a list of the following people that I'm after or I don't like. Or, I love my faith, but I never practice it. And that's a favorite one that I hear all the time. I am a very spiritual person, but I never come to church. And I always liken it to be a baseball player. Are you a good baseball player? Oh yeah, absolutely. Love baseball. Do you go to practice? No. Do you go to the games? No. Trust me, you're a lousy baseball player. If you're not practicing, you're not living out your faith. You're not producing what you're supposed to produce. How faithful really are you then? I know I'm preaching to the choir. God is, because you are here, God bless you for being here. So God is merciful. God is patient and loving. And He waits for the tree to produce. But He does call us to bear fruit, to work with the gifts and the talents that we have received. Calls us to serve others and Him each and every day of our lives. And so when we look upon that tree, we can say, okay, we will work with it. Okay, we will cultivate it. We will do our best to take care of that tree. But ultimately, we have to do our best to work with the talents and the skills that God has given to us, because ultimately we are judged by the fruit that we bear.